Amelia Carter had always been the quiet type. She preferred the company of books over people, finding comfort in their predictable stories and unchanging words. At 24, she worked as an assistant librarian in a small-town library. Her days were peaceful, filled with the soft rustle of turning pages and the occasional whisper of patrons asking for help. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it suited her perfectly. Amelia liked routine, and she liked being invisible. The idea of drawing attention to herself made her stomach twist into knots. But lately, something had been bothering her, something she couldn't ignore anymore. For weeks, she'd felt discomfort that no amount of rest or painkillers could fix. At first, she tried to brush it off, telling herself it was probably nothing serious. Maybe stress? Or maybe she'd eaten something bad. But when the symptoms persisted, worry crept in. After hours spent staring at her laptop late at night, reading articles about possible causes, Amelia reluctantly decided it was time to see a doctor. The thought of visiting a gynecologist terrified her. She imagined sitting in a cold, sterile room under bright fluorescent lights while someone asked deeply personal questions. What if they judged her? What if she didn't know how to answer? These fears kept her up at night, but she knew she couldn't delay any longer. With trembling hands, she searched online for recommendations and found Dr. Ryan Evans. His reviews were glowing. Patients praised his kindness, patience, and expertise. One review even called him the kind of doctor who makes you forget you're scared. That sentence alone convinced Amelia to book an appointment. On the morning of her visit, Amelia woke up early, unable to eat breakfast. Her stomach churned, with nerves as she got ready. She wore her plainest outfit, a beige sweater and dark jeans, hoping to blend in as much as possible. As she drove to the clinic, her mind raced with worst-case scenarios. What if the doctor discovered something terrible? What if he thought she was wasting his time? By the time she parked her car outside the building, her palms were slick with sweat. The clinic looked nothing like what Amelia had imagined. Instead of the cold, impersonal space she'd envisioned, it was warm and inviting. Soft lighting illuminated the waiting area, where comfortable chairs were arranged around potted plants. Classical music played faintly in the background, creating a calming atmosphere. Still, none of this eased Amelia's anxiety. She approached the front desk, clutching her purse tightly against her chest. "Hi," she said softly, almost whispering. "I'm here for an appointment with Dr. Evans." The receptionist smiled warmly. "Of course. You must be Amelia. Have a seat, and we'll call you back shortly." Amelia nodded and took a chair near the corner of the room, trying to make herself as small as possible. She flipped through a magazine without really seeing the pages, too distracted by the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Every now and then, she glanced at the clock on the wall, watching the seconds tick by excruciatingly slowly. Each minute felt like an hour. Finally, after what seemed like forever, a nurse appeared in the doorway, holding a clipboard. "Amelia." "Carter?" she called out. Amelia stood quickly, nearly knocking over her purse in the process. She followed the nurse down a short hallway, past several closed doors, until they reached a small examination room. Inside, the walls were painted a soothing shade of blue, and a large window let in natural light. The nurse instructed her to sit on the edge of the exam table while she took her vitals. "How are you feeling today?" The nurse asked kindly. "Nervous," Amelia admitted, her voice barely audible. The nurse chuckled. "Don't worry, you're in good hands with Dr. Evans. He's amazing at putting people at ease." Amelia managed a weak smile, but didn't respond. Once the nurse left, she sat there alone, staring at the floor and rehearsing what she would say when the doctor arrived. She wanted to sound confident and mature, but she doubted she'd succeed. Minutes passed, and just as she started to wonder if she'd been forgotten, the door opened again, In walked a man who looked nothing like what Amelia expected. Dr. Ryan Evans was young, much younger than she had anticipated, mid-30s at most, with neatly styled dark hair and warm brown eyes that seemed to radiate kindness. He wore a crisp white coat over a casual button-up shirt, giving him an approachable yet professional appearance. In one hand, he held a tablet, and in the other, a reassuring smile. "Hello, Amelia," he said, his voice calm and friendly. "I'm Dr. Evans. How are you doing today?" Amelia swallowed hard, suddenly hyper-aware of how nervous she must. "Look, I'm okay," she stammered. "Just a little nervous." Ryan nodded sympathetically. "That's completely normal. A lot of patients feel the same way during their first visit. But don't worry, I promise to take things slow and explain everything along the way." His words helped, though only slightly. Amelia watched as he reviewed her chart on the tablet, occasionally glancing up to ask clarifying questions. His demeanor was gentle, his tone conversational, and before long, Amelia began to relax at least a little. She explained her symptoms, hesitantly at first, stumbling over her words, but Ryan never interrupted or rushed her. Instead, he listened intently, nodding occasionally to show he understood. When she finished speaking, Ryan set the tablet aside and leaned forward slightly. "Thank you for sharing that with me, Amelia. Based on what you've described, I think we can rule out some major concerns right away. However, I'd like to run a few tests to get a clearer picture. Does that sound okay?" Amelia nodded, grateful for his straightforwardness. Throughout the rest of the appointment, Ryan guided her through each step of the examination, explaining procedures and answering her questions with patience. Despite her initial fear, Amelia found herself appreciating his professionalism and something else she couldn't quite put into words. There was a warmth about him, a genuine interest in helping others that went beyond the usual doctor-patient dynamic. As the appointment drew to a close, Ryan handed her a pamphlet with information about follow-up care. "We'll have the results in a few days," he said. "In the meantime, try not to worry too much. And if anything changes or you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out." Amelia thanked him quietly, still feeling a bit overwhelmed, but infinitely less scared than when she'd arrived. As she walked back to her car, she realized something surprising. For the first time in weeks, she felt hopeful. Little did she know, this meeting with Dr. Ryan Evans was only the beginning of an unexpected journey, one that would challenge her fears, reshape her perspective, and lead her to discover parts of herself she never knew existed. Amelia couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Ryan Evans after their first meeting. It wasn't just the way he had handled her appointment, calm, professional, and kind, but something deeper that lingered in her mind. She found herself replaying their conversation over and over again, noticing small details she hadn't paid attention to at the time, like how he'd remembered her name without looking at his notes, or how he'd smiled when she nervously admitted she didn't know much about medical terms. Most doctors she'd encountered before were either rushed or indifferent, but Ryan was different. He seemed genuinely interested in helping her, not just as a patient, but as a person. Over the next few days, Amelia's thoughts drifted back to him more often than she cared to admit. She told herself it was silly to dwell on someone she barely knew, especially since he was just doing his job. But there was something about him that stood out. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, confident, but not arrogant, or the warmth in his voice when he spoke. Whatever it was, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter had been special. When the clinic called to schedule her follow-up appointment, Amelia felt a strange mix of excitement and dread. On one hand, she was relieved to have answers about her health concerns. On the other hand, seeing Ryan again made her nervous. What if she said something awkward? What if he thought she was too shy or boring? These worries gnawed at her until the day of her second visit arrived. This time, Amelia walked into the clinic with slightly more confidence. The familiar warmth of the waiting area helped calm her nerves, and she even managed a small smile when the receptionist greeted her. When the nurse led her to the same examination room, Amelia noticed a subtle change. The chair by the desk now held a stack of colorful brochures about healthy living. She wondered if Ryan had picked them out himself. A few minutes later, the door opened and Ryan stepped inside. He looked just as composed as he had during their first meeting, though today he wore a light gray shirt under his white coat. "Hi, Amelia," he said warmly. "How are you feeling?" "Better, I think," she replied, her voice steadier than she expected. "Thanks for asking." Ryan nodded and pulled up her file on his tablet. "Good to hear. Let's go over your test results and see where we stand." He explained everything clearly, using simple language so she wouldn't feel lost. As it turned out, her symptoms weren't caused by anything serious, just a minor hormonal imbalance. That could be treated easily. Relief washed over Amelia, and she let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "That's such good news," Ryan added with a reassuring smile. "We'll start you on a treatment plan, and I'm confident you'll feel like yourself again soon." Amelia thanked him, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. But instead of ending the appointment there, Ryan surprised her by asking, "So, what do you do when you're not visiting doctors?" The question caught her off guard. I work at the library," she said hesitantly. "I'm an assistant librarian." "That sounds interesting," Ryan said, leaning back against the counter. "Do you enjoy it?" Amelia shrugged. "It's quiet, which I like. I get to read a lot, and it's nice helping people find books they love." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "I can see why you'd enjoy that. Quiet spaces have their own charm." Then, almost casually, he added, "I used to spend hours in libraries when I was younger. My mom always joked that I'd bring home more books than I could carry." Amelia smiled faintly. "Did you read all of them?" "Most of them," Ryan admitted with a chuckle. "I've always loved learning new things. That's part of why I became a doctor. I wanted to help people while keeping my curiosity alive." Their conversation flowed naturally from there. Ryan asked about her favorite genres, and Amelia mentioned her love for historical fiction and mystery novels. To her surprise, Ryan shared similar tastes, naming authors she admired. They also discovered a mutual interest in hiking, though Ryan admitted he hadn't gone on a trail in months because of his busy schedule. By the end of the appointment, Amelia realized she'd talked more than she usually did in social situations. Ryan had a way of making her feel comfortable, like she didn't need to censor herself or worry about saying the wrong thing. When he handed her a prescription slip and reminded her to call if she had any questions, Amelia felt a pang of disappointment that their time together was over. Over the following weeks, Amelia returned to the clinic for routine checkups. Visit deepened her connection with Ryan. He always greeted her with a genuine smile and took the time to ask about her progress, not just medically, but personally. Once, he recommended a book he thought she might enjoy, and another time, he told her about a local hiking trail he planned to explore soon. Their conversations grew longer and more relaxed, blurring the line between doctor and patient. One afternoon, after confirming that her treatment was working well, Ryan leaned against the exam table and said, "You know, Amelia, I don't think I've ever met anyone quite like you." Amelia blinked, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" "You're thoughtful," Ryan explained, "and you listen in a way most people don't anymore. It's refreshing." Heat rose to Amelia's cheeks, and she looked down at her hands. "Thank you. That's really nice of you to say." Ryan paused for a moment, then continued. "I know our relationship started because of your health concerns, but I hope you don't mind me saying this It's been great getting to know you. You remind me of the importance of slowing down and appreciating the little things." Amelia didn't know how to respond. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. She felt seen in a way she never had, and it left her both thrilled and uneasy. Was it okay to feel this way about her doctor? Or was she crossing some invisible boundary? Before she could dwell on it too much, Ryan broke the silence. "Anyway, I was wondering, would you like to grab coffee sometime?" Just as two people who happen to share similar interests, not as doctor and patient. Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She stared at him, unsure what to say. The idea of spending time with Ryan outside the clinic excited her, but it also scared her. What if others thought she was taking advantage of his kindness? What if she embarrassed herself? Seeing her hesitation, Ryan quickly added, "Only if you're comfortable with it, of course. I completely understand if you'd rather keep things professional." "No, it's not that," Amelia said quickly. I didn't expect you to ask." "Well, life's full of surprises," Ryan said with a grin. "So, what do you say? Coffee? My treat." After a moment's pause, Amelia nodded. "Okay, I'd like that." Ryan's smile widened. "Great. How about Saturday morning? There's a cozy cafe downtown I think you'll enjoy." "Saturday works," Amelia replied, her voice soft but steady as she left the clinic that day. Amelia couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in years, she felt hopeful, not just about her health, but about life in general. Little did she know, this simple coffee invitation would mark the beginning of a journey neither of them could have predicted. Saturday morning arrived, and Amelia woke up earlier than she needed to. She lay in bed for a while, staring at the ceiling and wondering if agreeing to meet Ryan for coffee had been a mistake. What were they even doing? Was this just two people having a casual chat, or was it something more? Her mind raced with questions she couldn't answer. Finally, after tossing and turning for what felt like hours, she got up and started getting ready. Amelia chose her outfit carefully, wanting to look presentable, but not too formal. She settled on a light blue sweater and jeans, paired with simple flats. She didn't wear much makeup, just enough to feel put together, and let her hair fall naturally around her shoulders. As she stood in front of the mirror, she took a deep breath and reminded herself that this was just coffee. It wasn't a big deal, but deep down, she knew it felt like one. The cafe Ryan had mentioned was only a 10-minute drive from her apartment, yet Amelia's hands trembled on the steering wheel the entire way. When she pulled into the parking lot, she spotted Ryan waiting outside. He looked relaxed in a dark green jacket and dark jeans, holding a takeaway cup of coffee as he scrolled through his phone. Seeing him there made her heart skip a beat, and she hesitated for a moment before stepping out of her car. "Hey," Ryan said when he noticed her approaching. His face lit up with a smile that immediately put her at ease. "You made it." "Hi," Amelia replied, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Sorry if I'm late. I wasn't sure where to park." "No worries at all," Ryan assured her. "I got here early anyway." "Ready to check out the cafe?" Amelia nodded, and they walked inside together. The cafe was warm and inviting, with wooden tables, mismatched chairs, and shelves lined with books. Soft jazz music played in the background, creating a cozy atmosphere. A chalkboard menu hung behind the counter, listing specialty drinks and pastries. Ryan gestured toward an empty table near the window. "What do you think? Good spot?" "It's perfect," Amelia said, sitting down. She glanced at the menu, feeling overwhelmed by the variety of options. "Do you have any recommendations?" "The caramel latte is amazing," Ryan said. "But if you're not into sweet drinks, the plain espresso is solid too." "I'll try the caramel latte," Amelia decided, closing the menu. "Thanks for the tip." Ryan went to place their order, while Amelia stayed at the table, taking in her surroundings. She noticed how comfortable everyone seemed: students typing on laptops, couples chatting quietly, friends laughing over shared desserts. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine being part of this scene regularly, sitting across from Ryan without worrying about what others might think. When Ryan returned with their drinks, he set hers down gently in front of her. "Here you go. Let me know if it's not sweet enough. They can add more syrup if you want." Amelia took a sip and smiled. "It's perfect, thank you." They spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing. Ryan told her funny stories about his early days in medical school, including the time he accidentally called his professor Mom during a lecture. Amelia laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. In return, she shared anecdotes about quirky library patrons and the occasional odd request, like the man who insisted on borrowing every book about pirates in alphabetical order. As the conversation flowed, Amelia realized how easy it was to talk to Ryan. He listened intently, asking follow-up questions that showed he genuinely cared about what she had to say. At the same time, he opened up about his own life, revealing glimpses of a side she hadn't seen before. Beneath his confident exterior lay a man who struggled with balancing his career and personal life. "My family thinks I'm crazy for still practicing medicine," Ryan admitted at one point. "They keep telling me I should focus on growing my company instead. But I love being a doctor. It reminds me why I started MedTech Innovations in the first place." Amelia tilted her head, curious. "What made you start the company?" Ryan paused, as if gathering his thoughts. "When I was in residency, I saw so many patients who couldn't afford basic care because of outdated systems. I wanted to create technology that would make healthcare more accessible, not just for the wealthy, but for everyone. It's been a lot of work, but seeing the impact we've made makes it worth it." "That's incredible," Amelia said sincerely. "You must be really proud of what you've accomplished." Ryan shrugged modestly. "It's rewarding, but it's also exhausting. Sometimes I feel like I'm juggling too many things at once. That's why I like spending time here at the clinic. It grounds me." Their conversation shifted to lighter topics after that, but Amelia couldn't stop thinking about what Ryan had shared. She admired his dedication to helping others, even when it came at a personal cost. It made her reflect on her own life and the dreams she'd pushed aside over the years. For the first time in a long time, she wondered what it might feel like to chase something meaningful again. By the time they left the cafe, the sun was shining brightly, casting golden light across the streets. Ryan suggested they take a short walk through the nearby park, and Amelia agreed. They strolled along winding paths surrounded by trees, their footsteps crunching softly on fallen leaves. The air smelled crisp and clean, and the peacefulness of the setting matched the mood between them. "You seem happier today," Ryan observed as they reached a small pond. Ducks paddled lazily across the water, leaving ripples in their wake. "I am," Amelia admitted. "I haven't felt this relaxed in a long time," Ryan smiled. "Good, you deserve it. Life's too short to spend it worrying all the time." Amelia glanced at him, noticing the sincerity in his eyes. "You're good at making people feel better, you know. Not just physically, but emotionally too." "Well, I have a great teacher," Ryan teased. "Spending time with you reminds me to slow down and appreciate the little things." Amelia blushed, unsure how to respond. They continued walking in companionable silence until they reached a bench overlooking the pond. Ryan sat down and patted the space beside him. "Mind if we rest for a bit?" "Not at all," Amelia said, joining him. She watched the ducks for a moment before speaking again. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Ryan said, turning to face her. "Why did you invite me here today?" Amelia asked softly. I mean, we could have kept talking at the clinic. Why coffee? Ryan hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. Because I wanted to get to know you better, not as my patient, but as Amelia. There's something about you that feels different, refreshing, and I guess I wanted to see if maybe you felt the same way. Amelia's heart raced. She looked down at her hands, unsure how to process what he just said. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now, Ryan reassured her. I just wanted to be honest. Whatever happens next, I'm glad we're doing this. Amelia nodded slowly, feeling a mix of emotions. She couldn't quite untangle. Part of her was scared of letting someone in, scared of being vulnerable. But another part of her felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. For the first time, she allowed herself to entertain the possibility that maybe, just maybe, Ryan could be someone's special dot as they headed back to their cars later that afternoon. Amelia realized she didn't want the day to end. She felt lighter, freer and more hopeful than she had in a long time. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge her fears, test her limits, and ultimately lead her to discover parts of herself she never knew existed. Over the next few weeks, Amelia and Ryan continued to meet outside of the clinic. What had started as a casual coffee date turned into regular outings, dinners at quiet restaurants, walks through parks, and even visits to local bookstores. Each meeting brought them closer, peeling back layers of their personalities that neither had shown to many others. For Amelia, spending time with Ryan felt like stepping into a world she'd never imagined for herself. He encouraged her to try new things, like ordering dishes she'd never heard of or exploring trails she'd always been too shy to hike alone. Slowly but surely, she began to shed some of her timidity, finding confidence in his unwavering support. Ryan, on the other hand, found himself drawn to Amelia's quiet strength. Beneath her reserved exterior lay a sharp mind and a kind heart. She listened deeply, asked thoughtful questions, and offered insights that often surprised him. In her company, he felt a sense of calm he rarely experienced in his fast-paced life. The more time they spent together, the harder it became for either of them to deny the growing connection between them. But as much as they enjoyed each other's company, reality loomed over their budding relationship. Ryan's status as a successful entrepreneur and doctor meant he lived under constant public scrutiny. Paparazzi followed him to business events. Journalists wrote articles about his latest ventures, and strangers speculated about his personal life. While Ryan had grown accustomed to this attention, Amelia was unprepared for what it might mean for her. One Saturday evening, after a pleasant dinner at a cozy Italian restaurant, Ryan suggested they take a stroll downtown. The streets were alive, with lights and music from street performers, creating a lively yet intimate atmosphere. As they walked arm in arm, laughing over a joke Ryan had made about his failed attempts at cooking pasta, a flash startled them both. "Dr. Evans," a voice called out. "Who's your date tonight?" Amelia froze, blinking against the sudden brightness of camera phones pointed in their direction. A small crowd of photographers and curious onlookers gathered around them, firing off questions faster than she could process. "Is this your girlfriend? How long have you two been together? What's her name?" Ryan immediately stepped in front of Amelia, shielding her from the intrusion. His tone was firm but polite. "Thank you all for your interest, but we're just enjoying a private evening. Please respect our space." Despite his calm demeanor, Amelia could feel the tension radiating off him. She clutched her purse tightly, her heart pounding in her chest. The cameras kept clicking, capturing images of her wide-eyed expression and Ryan's protective stance. It wasn't until a security guard nearby intervened that the crowd finally dispersed, leaving them standing awkwardly on the sidewalk. "Are you okay?" Ryan asked once they were alone again. His voice was soft, filled with concern. Amelia nodded, though her hands were still trembling. I wasn't expecting that. Do people follow you everywhere? Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair. Not usually, but sometimes. I'm sorry, I should have warned you. This isn't something I deal with often, but when it happens, it can get intense. It's not your fault, Amelia said quickly, though she couldn't shake the unease settling in her stomach. I don't know if I can handle this. Ryan reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. I understand, and I'll do whatever I can to protect you from it. But I won't lie, it's part of my life. If we're going to keep seeing each other, this might come up again. Amelia looked away, unsure how to respond. The thought of being thrust into the spotlight terrified her. She valued her privacy and preferred staying out of the public eye. Could she really handle being linked to someone as high profile as Ryan? Would people judge her for dating a millionaire? These questions swirled in her mind, making it hard to focus on anything else. The incident weighed heavily on both of them in the days that followed. Ryan tried to give Amelia space, sensing her need to think things through. Meanwhile, photos of their encounter appeared online, sparking rumors about their relationship. Headlines like, "Who is Dr. Evans' mystery woman?" and "The librarian who stole a millionaire's heart" dominated gossip sites. Friends and coworkers bombarded Amelia with questions. Some curious, others skeptical. At work, whispers followed her wherever she went. One colleague even joked, "So, when are you moving to a mansion?" Others weren't so lighthearted, implying she was using Ryan for his wealth. Amelia felt cornered, unsure how to defend herself without drawing more attention. Her usual refuge, the library, no longer felt safe. When Ryan called to check on her, Amelia hesitated before answering. "Hey," she said softly, sitting on the edge of her bed. "How are you?" "I'm fine," Ryan replied. "But I'm worried about you. How are you holding up?" Amelia sighed. "Honestly, not great. Everyone at work is talking about me, and I hate feeling like I'm being judged. I didn't ask for any of this." "I know," Ryan said, his voice heavy with guilt. "Was letting me into your life a mistake?" "No," Amelia said firmly. "It's not your fault. I don't know if I can handle this kind of attention. It's too much." There was a long pause before Ryan spoke again. "If you want to step back, I'll understand. Your happiness matters more to me than anything. But if you're willing to give this a chance, I promise to stand by you every step of the way. We can figure it out together." Amelia closed her eyes, tears welling up. She wanted to believe him, to trust that they could overcome this, but fear held her back. After a moment, she whispered, "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Ryan said gently. "Take all the time you need. Just know that I care about you, Amelia, more than you might realize." Hanging up the phone, Amelia felt torn. On one hand, she cared deeply for Ryan and cherished the moments they'd shared. On the other hand, the idea of navigating his world scared her. She spent hours pacing her apartment, replaying their conversations and weighing the pros and cons. By the end of the night, exhaustion overwhelmed her, and she crawled into bed, hoping sleep would bring clarity. The next morning, Amelia woke up with a renewed sense of determination. She realized she couldn't let fear dictate her decisions. If she truly cared about Ryan, and she did, then she owed it to both of them to face these challenges head on. With that resolve, she picked up her phone and sent him a text. "Let's talk." They met later that day at a secluded park, far from prying eyes. Sitting on a bench surrounded by tall trees, Amelia took a deep breath and met Ryan's gaze. "I've thought about everything," she began, her voice steady despite the nerves fluttering in her chest. "And I don't want to walk away, not unless you do. I care about you, Ryan, enough to try and figure this out." Relief washed over Ryan's face, and he reached for her hand. "You have no idea how much that means to me. Thank you for giving us a chance." But, Amelia added, her tone firmer now, we need to set boundaries. I can't live like this, constantly looking over my shoulder or worrying about what people will say. We'll need to find a way to manage the attention without letting it control our lives. Ryan nodded, agreed. I'll hire a PR team to help us navigate this. They can release a statement clarifying that we're taking things slowly and ask for privacy. Beyond that, we'll limit public appearances until we're ready. Amelia smiled faintly. That sounds good. And maybe we can lean on each other more. I don't want to hide who we are, but I also don't want to lose myself in all of this. You won't, Ryan promised. We'll take it one day at a time, together. As they sat there, hands intertwined, Amelia felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she believed they could face it as long as they faced it together. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where love triumphed over fear, where two very different worlds merged into something beautiful. The days that followed their conversation in the park were a whirlwind of activity. Ryan wasted no time putting their plan into action. He hired a public relations team to help manage the media attention and drafted a statement addressing the recent photos and rumors. The message was simple and direct. Amelia and Ryan were taking things slowly and respectfully asked for privacy as they navigated their relationship. It wasn't an admission or denial. It was a request for space, something both of them desperately needed. At first, the statement seemed to work. The flurry of online speculation died down, and the paparazzi stopped lurking outside Amelia's apartment. For a brief moment, it felt like they could breathe again. But beneath the surface, tensions lingered. Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that she was being judged, even if people weren't saying it outright. At work, some of her colleagues treated her differently, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled resentment. One coworker even muttered under her breath, "Must be nice to land a millionaire." Amelia tried to ignore the comments, but they stung. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong, yet she couldn't help feeling like an outsider in her own life. To make matters worse, her family began asking questions. Her mom called one evening, her tone equal parts excitement and concern. "Is this man serious about you? Are you sure he's not just using you for, I don't know, attention?" "Mom," Amelia said firmly, though her voice wavered, "Ryan isn't like that. He cares about me. I'm just looking out for you," her mom replied. "You've always been so careful, Amelia. Don't let someone sweep you off your feet before you're ready." Her mom's words echoed in Amelia's mind long after the call ended. Was she moving too fast? Was she letting herself get carried away by the thrill of being with someone extraordinary? These doubts gnawed at her, making her second-guess every decision she'd made since meeting Ryan. Meanwhile, Ryan faced challenges of his own. His business. Associates, many of whom had known him for years, started questioning his judgment. During a board meeting for MedTech Innovations, one executive raised an eyebrow and said, "A librarian, Ryan? Really? Is this the image we want for our brand?" Ryan clenched his jaw but kept his composure. "My personal life has nothing to do with the company. I won't apologize for who I choose to spend time with. But perception matters." The executive pressed, "People associate you with MedTech. If your relationships reflect poorly on us, it becomes our problem." "It won't," Ryan shot back. "And if anyone thinks differently, they can take it up with me directly." The exchange left Ryan frustrated but resolute. He refused to let anyone dictate how he lived his life or who he loved. Still, the pressure mounted. Friends from his social circle hinted that dating someone without a high-profile background might hurt his reputation. Even his parents weighed in, urging him to consider whether Amelia was the right kind of partner for someone in his position. Despite the external noise, Ryan remained steadfast in his commitment to Amelia. He called her every night, checking in and offering reassurance. "Don't listen to what other people say," he told her during one particularly tough evening. "They don't know us. They don't understand what we have. I know." Amelia replied softly, "But it's hard not to feel like everyone's watching, waiting for us to fail." "You're stronger than you think," Ryan said, his voice filled with conviction. "And so am I. We'll get through this together." Their resolve was tested further when a tabloid published a sensational article titled "Dr. Love, the Millionaire and the Librarian." The piece painted Amelia as a gold digger, quoting anonymous sources who claimed she was only interested in Ryan's money. Though the allegations were baseless, the damage was done. Strangers online joined in, leaving cruel comments on social media and speculating about Amelia's motives. When Amelia saw the article, she felt sick to her stomach. Tears streamed down her face as she read line after line of lies and accusations. How could people twist their stories so completely? She wanted to disappear, to hide from the world until the storm passed. But Ryan refused to let her retreat. "We're not going to let them win," he said firmly when he arrived at her apartment later that day. "This isn't about us, it's about selling stories. We know the truth, and that's all that matters." "But what if they never stop?" Amelia asked, her voice trembling. "What if this keeps happening every time we go out or try to live our lives?" "Then we'll fight back," Ryan said. "I'll hold a press conference. I'll tell the world exactly who you are, the amazing, kind, intelligent woman I care about. No one gets to define you but you." Amelia hesitated, unsure if confronting the issue head-on was the right move. "Are you sure? Won't that just make things worse?" "Maybe for a little while," Ryan admitted. "But in the long run, it'll clear the air. People will see the real you, not the version they've invented." After much deliberation, Amelia agreed. Together, they worked with Ryan's PR team to prepare for the press conference. Ryan rehearsed his speech over and over, ensuring every word reflected the depth of his feelings for Amelia. He spoke about her kindness, her love for books, and the way she inspired him to slow down and appreciate life's simpler moments. By the time the event arrived, he felt ready to face the world. The press conference took place in a large conference room at MedTech Innovations headquarters. Reporters packed the space, cameras rolling as Ryan stepped up to the podium. Amelia sat quietly in the front row, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She watched as Ryan adjusted the microphone and began to speak. "Thank you all for coming today," he said, his voice calm but authoritative. "I wanted to address some of the recent headlines about my personal life. There's been a lot of speculation, and unfortunately, a lot of misinformation. So let me set the record straight." He paused, scanning the room before continuing. "Amelia Carter is not just someone I happen to date. She's someone who has changed the way I see the world. She reminds me of the importance of connection, of listening deeply, and of finding joy in the everyday. Anyone who knows her understands how special she is, and any suggestion otherwise is simply false." Ryan turned slightly, gesturing toward Amelia. "She didn't ask for this attention, and neither did I. But now that it's here, I want to make one thing clear. I stand by her completely. We're taking things one day at a time, and I hope you'll respect that." The room fell silent as reporters absorbed his words. Some scribbled notes furiously, while others snapped photos of Amelia, who sat frozen in her seat. When Ryan finished speaking, he invited a few questions, carefully deflecting those that ventured too far into personal territory. By the end of the session, the atmosphere felt different, less hostile, more curious. Back at Amelia's apartment. Later that evening, they sat side by side on the couch, exhausted but relieved. "How do you feel?" Ryan asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Better," Amelia admitted. "It still scares me, but hearing you talk about me like that, it made me realize I don't have to hide. I can be proud of who I am. And you should be, Ryan said, pulling her close. Because I am. In the weeks that followed, the tide began to turn. While some critics remained vocal, many people responded positively to Ryan's defense of Amelia. Fans of medtech innovations praised his authenticity, and supporters of their relationship shared messages of encouragement online. Slowly but surely, the spotlight shifted away from them, allowing them to focus on building a life together. Through it all, Amelia discovered a strength she hadn't known she possessed. With Ryan's unwavering support, she learned to stand firm in the face of adversity and embrace her worth. For the first time, she understood that love wasn't about avoiding challenges. It was about facing them together, hand in hand. And as they walked forward into the unknown, Amelia knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, they would handle it together. Months passed, and life for Amelia and Ryan began to settle into a rhythm. The initial chaos of media attention faded, replaced by a quieter but steadier pace. They had learned to navigate the challenges that came with their relationship, finding ways to protect their bond from outside pressures. While the spotlight occasionally flared up, especially during major events in Ryan's career, they handled it with grace. Leaning on each other for support, Amelia, once hesitant to step out of her comfort zone, found herself growing in unexpected ways. With Ryan's encouragement, she started pursuing hobbies she'd long set aside. She joined a local book club, where she met people who shared her love of literature. At first, she worried about fitting in or being judged, but the group welcomed her warmly. Their discussions sparked new ideas and passions, reigniting a part of her that had lain dormant for years. She even began writing short stories again, something she hadn't done since college. Ryan was her biggest cheerleader, reading drafts and offering thoughtful feedback. Ryan, too, noticed changes within himself. His time with Amelia reminded him of the importance of balance. He scaled back his commitments at MedTech Innovations, delegating more responsibilities to trusted colleagues so he could focus on what mattered most, his patients and his relationship. On weekends, they often went hiking together, exploring trails that stretched far beyond the small park near the cafe where they'd first ventured outside the clinic. These outings became sacred moments for them, a chance to disconnect from the noise of the world and reconnect with each other. One crisp autumn morning, as they stood atop a mountain trail, overlooking a breathtaking valley, Ryan turned to Amelia with a look of quiet determination. "Do you remember the first time we hiked together?" he asked, his voice soft against the wind. Amelia smiled, wrapping her arms around herself to ward off the chill. "How could I forget? You almost slipped on a patch of mud." Ryan chuckled. "True, but what I remember most is how peaceful it felt, being here with you, away from everything else. It reminded me of why I wanted this, why I want us." Amelia tilted her head, curious. "What do you mean?" Ryan hesitated, then reached into his jacket pocket. When he pulled out a small velvet box, Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Her heart raced as he knelt down on one knee, holding the box, open to reveal a simple yet elegant diamond ring. "Amelia," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion shimmering in his eyes. "You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've shown me that strength isn't about power or success. It's about kindness, resilience, and staying true to yourself. I can't imagine my future without you in it. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes as she stared at him, the man who had seen her at her most vulnerable and loved her anyway. For a moment, she couldn't speak, overwhelmed by the enormity of the moment. Then, through her tears, she whispered, "Yes." Ryan slid the ring onto her finger, and they embraced tightly, the cool mountain air swirling around them. Neither of them spoke. Words weren't necessary. In that instant, surrounded by nature's beauty and the promise of a shared future, they both knew they had found something rare and precious. The days leading up to their wedding were filled with joy and anticipation. They decided to keep the ceremony intimate, inviting only close friends and family. The venue was a charming garden nestled in the countryside, its lush greenery and vibrant flowers creating a fairy tale setting. Amelia wore a flowing ivory gown, her hair adorned with delicate flowers, while Ryan looked dashing in a classic navy suit. As they exchanged vows under a canopy of twinkling lights, their love shone brighter than ever. During his speech, Ryan addressed the challenges they'd faced together. People told us our worlds were too different, that we wouldn't last. But they didn't know us. They didn't see the way Amelia makes me laugh, the way she challenges me to be better, the way she loves me for who I am not what I have. To anyone who doubted us, all I can say is thank you, because your doubts made us stronger. Amelia followed with her own heartfelt words. When I first met Ryan, I never imagined my life would turn out like this. I was scared of change, scared of stepping into the unknown. But Ryan taught me that love isn't about avoiding fear, it's about facing it together. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and for that, I'll always be grateful. As the celebration continued late into the night, guests danced under the stars, sharing laughter and stories. Amelia and Ryan stole quiet moments throughout the evening, sneaking away to hold hands or share a kiss. Each glance between them carried the weight of everything they'd overcome, the doubts, the criticism, the sacrifices, and the unshakable bond they'd built along the way. In the months following their wedding, Amelia and Ryan settled into married life with ease. They bought a cozy home nestled on the edge of town, close enough to the library for Amelia and convenient for Ryan's clinic visits. Weekends were spent gardening, cooking meals together, or curling up on the couch with books. They also made time to give back to their community, volunteering at local shelters and mentoring young professionals interested in healthcare and technology. Amelia's confidence continued to grow, fueled by Ryan's unwavering support. She submitted one of her short stories to a literary magazine, and to her delight, it was accepted for publication. Seeing her name in print filled her with pride, and Ryan celebrated the milestone as if it were his own. "This is just the beginning," he told her. "You're going to inspire so many people." For Ryan, life with Amelia brought a sense of fulfillment he'd never experienced before. His work remained important to him, but it no longer defined him. Instead, he found purpose in the little things and the sound of Amelia's laughter, the warmth of her hand in his, the knowledge that they were building a life rooted in love and mutual respect. Of course, challenges still arose. Running a global company and balancing personal priorities wasn't easy, and there were days when stress threatened to pull them apart. But they faced every obstacle as a team, communicating openly and reminding themselves of the foundation they'd built. Whether it was navigating disagreements or celebrating victories, they approached life with the same resilience that had carried them through their toughest moments. On the anniversary of their engagement, Amelia and Ryan returned to the mountain trail where Ryan had proposed. Standing once again at the overlook, they reflected on how far they'd come. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if we hadn't taken that first step?" Amelia asked, leaning her head against Ryan's shoulder. "All the time," Ryan admitted. "But then I remind myself that we did take it. And because of that, we're here now." Amelia smiled, intertwining her fingers with his. "I guess sometimes the best things in life are the ones you least expect." They stood there for a while, watching the sun dip below the horizon and paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. In that moment, surrounded by beauty and silence, they knew they had created something extraordinary, a partnership built on trust, understanding, and an unbreakable connection. Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Together, they had proven that love could thrive even in the face of adversity. And as they walked back down the trail, hand in hand, they carried with them the certainty that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together.